just had a series of dreams. They might have been enlightening about the truth. I was almost awake in each of them. In one, I saw myself with some other people in boxes in a cellar, which we could, you'd think, have gotten out. I suppose we were so used to being beaten into them. We were sectioned off into them, but could have gotten out, but was too used to being beaten into them to try to leave, I guess. I think we were in too much shock, all of us. All of us were nice people, and there were horrible people messing about around us. I've had similar visions in the past, dreams in the past, and they do physically hit us. And they're just really horrible. This time I was slightly more aware than I have been before in them, and I saw to the left at the back of me. I would have had to leave in one direction, turn left, and then behind me would have been 2 or more doors, a number of doors, one in particular quite big and wide. Every exit has a kind of haziness to it, like a force field. It's almost like, I'm not sure it's real. In my mind, if it's symbolic, it would be just something intangible, really, that could be walked through, like somebody else's opinion of me. Like a doctor saying I'm mad and he thinks I should be treated or something. Whereas in fact I should just walk out. All the people with me were perfectly okay, but really in shock from the amount of abuse they were getting from the people around them, who were in charge, or were at least free and came and went as they pleased. And I think all of them could have left if they'd wanted to, but we were all just basically demoralized, I think. And hunched over and really badly treated and unable to get up and walk out. I think we would have been physically stopped. Yeah, we would have been physically stopped if we'd tried to do that. I became very determined to try and investigate things further. I was staring at the door a lot, the exit door a lot, and was trying to ascertain what was going on. I think I started speaking to the people who were the bad people who were walking around. I was trying to get some kind of clues about the nature of the situation and of them and so forth, to further my knowledge, and became unaware of the situation and woke up. That's what it's like. They do seem to just stop you being aware of the situation. The reality, if it's a reality somewhere, the dream, if it's a dream, the hallucination, if it's a hallucination, the thought implant, if it's a thought implant. Everything became sort of like white snow on a TV screen in my mind. And I stopped trying to perceive anything because I couldn't. Then I went back into the same situation and could feel my voice box making muffled sounds, even though I was asleep, of like 3 or 4 different voices, all pleading for mercy as they were being beaten by the bad people. They were all calling out for, I think that's what it was, really. I could just about, if I went deeper into it, I could start to hear it. As I came further out, I could feel my voice box creating 3 or 4 different voices, but not clearly. Not fully clearly. But they all sounded distressed, and they were all trying to beg for mercy, basically. And these people keep beating them. I think we are kept and beaten because we're nice people for a start. So we're going to have to learn to toughen up and beat these types back. We're going to have to learn to become aware, as I seem to, and strike quickly before they can make us unaware. There is some kind of effect that they have on us, which seems real when they're beating us. Maybe we could have effects on them. I think we could, or they wouldn't be afraid of allowing us consciousness, which they are, which is why they deprive us of it when they see we have it. I don't know what they're doing, if they physically harm us in a real reality somewhere, or if they just turn off a dream and turn it on again when it suits them to beat us. Who knows if I'm alone and they're making me think other people are being beaten with me? Who knows if a single person is victimizing me? I personally do think it's a lot of people. I think I suffer voodoo continually from people around me, particularly, well, I know some neighbours. I would say it's a number of people, including people physically present in this world, if this world is physically real. I'm not being silly there. Physicists now say that it might not be. Some physicists are even saying it might be a holographic projection by a giant computer. And I'm not kidding, or computer specialists are saying that now. Some are. So I'm not being silly there. Yeah, it does seem to me that we have to accept that we're living in an unfavorable reality in which some creatures, possibly not human, have an enormous amount of power over us. They project situations we can understand, though. So they want to get something from us that is within our mental grasp. They want to get things from our reality. It's no good them just giving us so much to cope with that we become useless to them. They want to torment us in a framework that is normal to us, so they can extract normal experiences of all kinds. I think they do enjoy the power trip, though, because I also had another dream where I was in some kind of institution. I don't know what it was. This was after these earlier dreams. I had two of those dreams where people were crying out in my voice box. The second one was stronger than the first. It's like they gave us a beating. My next dream was being ushered through corridors by these horrible bad people with very frightened fellows that are presumably the same ones I've been with in the cellar. In the cellar, though, they looked had slightly smoother outlines and were hunched over. Now they had sharper outlines, like people and real people, and they looked very frightened and they hardly spoke. I did get the impression that they were aware of what was going on insofar as their present experience was. So they were very frightened, whereas I had an awareness that was from this experience where I was figuring something out, not just experiencing what they were doing to me. It's like some other people are more permanently captive somewhere than I am, whereas my mind from this reality, which isn't quite so beaten and which is learning things, intrudes into the mind of me when I'm there. I may be doing what's called a walk-in, where a spirit enters someone else. I may be walking into myself in that situation, or into someone else, I don't know. And anyway, yeah, good boy. Yeah, good boy you are. I love you. Good dog. Anyway, those people were too scared. They hardly spoke a word. They shushed us up and shuttered us up as we walked along. So, and if we'd made a noise, if we even thought about it, they seemed to know if I was even thinking about speaking, and they hit towards me if I even began to speak. But I mentally felt like shouting out lots of things like, "Who are you? I know this is wrong. I haven't done anything. What am I doing here? Why are you treating us like this? What gives you the right to treat people like that?" Or even more things that seemed to, that would have implied something else, like that they were the bad ones, that they were the ones who should be not just punished, because it wasn't even a situation of right or wrong, but treated in a way I can't describe now. Maybe sectioned off, like the Bible says they will be in hell forever and tormented forever or something. They were tormenting us, and probably would have done it forever if they could have, for whatever they were getting out of it. I wanted to accuse them of something that isn't in the realm of normal understanding. So even though I could feel words for it in my mind, they wouldn't come through consciously enough to be spoken. But the closest approximation I can get to them is that they needed dealing with these bad people in the way that would have corresponded to means or methods that aren't normal, like sectioning them off in a separate place like a hell, where they would be the ones to receive eternal damnation. It's like they were giving us their version of eternal damnation. As much as they dared, I think they do fear something, or they would be even worse. But it's not that they're necessarily, as I say, they're not trying to overwhelm us. They want us within parameters of our comprehension so that they can extract responses to particular stimuli for their own use. They're mocking us, making mock-ups of us with our own existences. If you've seen the film The Silence of the Lambs, you might remember there's a man in it who skins women and dresses up in their skins because he wants to be female. And he thinks he's female when he dresses up in their skins. These things are trying to ape us using our own existences. Anyway, I became aware as we were being ushered into a large room, through a larger, short corridor into a reception area. And we were sat down, and across from us, about 8 or 10 feet away, there were some people behind a big desk. And I went up and spoke to them, a big modern front reception desk, leaning back in their chairs, looking at us. Now and again, these people spoke to us. they were more challenging and casual here, making stupid, senseless remarks like, "Who are you? Okay?" Stupid stuff like that. I can't quite fully describe it. It was even less sensible than that. I think they tried to extract things partly by making us pull them out of our own heads. We have to pull things into our consciousness to try and make some kind of response to stupid things, not just simple responses like yes that they want so much. They probably have loads of those. They want things that entail a greater understanding that we have to project out to try and satisfy these silly queries they're making. But they were short, simple things like, "Are you okay? Who you?" Stuff like that, silly things like that. And I got up. You weren't supposed to get up, evidently, but I got up. And they almost seemed, some of them seemed a bit excited by this. They looked for any unusual behavior as a new phenomena. And they watched me for a bit. I thought they might jump me. I think in the past they might have jumped me for doing this. But I'd probably been beaten out of it for a while. And they saw it as possibly a new phenomena. In a different mental framework, arising from a new approach, a new attempt to cope with them, developed over time or something like that. But I just wanted to experiment. I wanted to see if there was any kind of, if they were perturbed, if they could be perturbed by me, if I acted on them the way they acted on me. So in my mind, although I didn't feel very strong after what I'd been through, I tried to make myself pick up the chair that I'd been sitting on behind me, which is a smallish modern reception type chair. I picked it up in my mind with my hand and tried to fling it at the people behind the desk. And it didn't reach them, but I think they are perturbed by being acted upon the way they act upon others in these realms, whether they're mental or physical, whatever. Because before it even reached them, they disappeared right in front of me, cleanly disappeared, just vanished, disappeared. And then I turned around to look for others, and I saw the last images of them, last bits of them as smudged images evaporating behind me, including the people I'd been with who'd been being beaten. So I'm not sure whether or not they were actually being controlled and removed from my view by the bad people, or if they were all bad people who'd been making a big play to manipulate me. But anyway, the whole lot of them, everyone, was gone within a couple of seconds. And I was left looking at this empty room, which was also vanishing before my eyes. And in literally 4 or 5 seconds, the whole thing turned to snow. Everything turns to snow, like on a TV screen, an old TV screen which has lost the picture. That grainy black and white outline of fine graininess that has no definite image, just white noise, they call it. No formula, no picture, just a blank screen, really, with electrons hitting the screen, a black and white fine grained picture, just but without even any sound like you get on an old TV screen. Just turns to what they call snow. I call white noise. Some people call snow. I've heard called snow, and some people call white noise. And then I woke up because there was no point in trying to perceive anything anymore. I'm really getting very aware in these dreams, some dreams that I'm having recently, and waking up is literally just 1 or 2% away from the dream, and it's a very easy thing to do. and sometimes I can push my way back into it, but I couldn't do that this time. So, I'm still doing my best to do that, and sometimes I can do it, sometimes I can't. Sometimes they turn it off really thoroughly, and then I wake up, and it's not usually easy to get, well, sometimes I can get back into the dream again even after that, but I couldn't this time. There was one more dream, if I can remember it now. Yeah, I think I was starting to be aware that I was back again I was starting to be aware that I was back again in, I think it would have been the reception area or another room in that place that was more modern and clean and not like the cellar. If I'd been taken from the cellar to the reception area, the cellar might have been connected to the reception area in some way. But it sounds like a prison, really, with the boxes in the cellar being the cells and the reception area being the reception area. I don't know what it is or what it's meant to represent to me. Or if, I don't know what this is. I don't know if it's people controlling me as an individual or if a group of people in my mind that I'm connected with telepathically are being attacked. I don't know what it is. I do know I'm seeming to become more aware in a number of ways, including outside these few dreams, of things. And I'm glad about that. What I'm becoming aware of might be uncomfortable, but if it gives me any chance of escaping it, I want to be aware of it. Anyway, the last dream was that I began to become aware of myself in this place again. It wasn't in the cellar, it was in a more modern room, cleaner room. And I was surrounded by the bad people, but they didn't have a fully human form anymore. They had the stick-like forms of aliens. Some of them were taller, not the little greys. Some were little greys and some were taller greys, possibly having stolen height and a little more build. In this case, just height from humans. They are trying to steal our existence, our reality. I was a little shorter than I am physically. I was starting to become slim like them as they were getting bigger. I was getting smaller. I think that's might be what was happening. They were pale and seemed to be in one suit mostly. Some of them seemed to maybe have gloves on, white gloves on. The smaller ones that were picking on me the most. The older ones seemed to be helping them, either as more developed things or as their parents. I seem to be made of different pieces or colors. I seem to have a black bodysuit and paler gloves and feet. I had a large bulbous head, which was mostly caved in at the front. About 2/3 to 3/4 of it, maybe like 3/4 of it, was caved in at the front, as if they had eaten away my face and mind. And it was literally just thin air. I wondered why I wasn't in absolute agony. I wondered why I had any mind left. I did seem to be thinking still. and seeing, but they somehow caved in a huge amount of my face and head. I had a white jaw and chin and a black back of head, and my head was a sort of sphere on top of my neck and jaw, I think, which could be moved by means of just how a sphere slides over a spherical base that suits it, that's the same size. That might be how my head moved. But anyway, I had my hands up as if to rest against a wall, although they weren't resting on a wall, and my legs slightly parted. And I think they were getting me ready for a torture session or some more shouting at the little ones that were around me. And I started to come to, and as I started to come to, I tried to sense around me, and I sensed that I could become very aware of that place if I chose to, and I decided to risk it. So I became really aware for a moment, became that thing for a moment, and saw that I was, I think, with other people to my right, at least as well. They were getting lined up as well. They hadn't fully materialized in this room. This room would have had to be bigger to accommodate any on my left. I think they can change the size and shape of the room to fit the number of people in they want. They were starting to materialize, some people who were already partly materialized and undergoing this experience too, on my right. And I'm not quite sure what was going to happen because we weren't touching the wall. God knows what was going to happen. They were starting to torment us verbally again, using, this time, voices like small children. Really small, fine voices. I can't copy them even. They were something like, I can't even remember what was being said either. Something, I'm just going to give you an idea. Something like, itchy hairs. Hello, that's right. Stand against the wall. Stand against the wall. It's like they're little children being taught to torment and abuse. Little children can do things like that, even so-called human children, who might not be human, remember. Remember what it says in the Bible, in the last days, it'll be as it was in the days of Noah. In the days of Noah, people, so-called human beings, who may have looked human, were actually not human, which is why God killed them. And these things, these children in this world, may not be children. I'm referring to Arab children who are given machine guns at the age of 3, knives at the age of 3, and taught to parade through the streets with bandanas on their heads that say things like, behead those who disrespect Islam. I've seen television programs in which children as young as 3, boys as young as 3, were taught to cut off someone's head, and a boy of 3, having been shown how to cut somebody's head off, was then instructed to cut somebody's head off, and he did. And I told him he was a good boy. And I told the camera that he'd done it before and he'd be doing it again. And the other children were the same. So they raised their young to be very violent. Yet they dote on their young. I've had experiences in real life that show how they dote on each other. Oh yeah, and in my dream they were treating each other with great care, straight after being extremely abusive to us. They would be extremely abusive to us and then treat each other with great care. They changed their behavior entirely according to whom they were dealing with. They treated each other with great care and abused us. They would, for example, if one of them needed something, I'm just going to give you an example that didn't happen, but I'm just trying to tell you how it was. They would say, after they'd gotten various responses from us, they would want to note down what had happened, and they'd say, "Oh, have you got a pencil? Oh, here, let me get one for you." They'd be really polite to each other and nice to each other, and then they'd turn around and say some foul-mouthed insult to us, or they'd come back and do some more horrible things, and then they'd go back and just behave nicely to each other. How they behave depends entirely on whom they're dealing with. Anyway, I woke up in this room, and there were these stick people with curves under their arms. They weren't completely stick. They did have some curvature. There was curvature under their arms and between their legs, where their legs joined their body, and a bit where their heads and necks joined, and so on. There was some curvature. They weren't completely stick people. And they did have bulbous heads and some jaw area. And they did have bigger eyes than that. And they didn't really have hair except bits of sprouted hair. Bits of sprouts on top. And the little ones were victimizing me. And when in that moment I became fully aware that I was there, the one I think who was chiefly interested in benefiting from abusing me was very dismayed and said, "Oh no, she's become aware." I can't do the voice. It was incredibly innocent and sounded like a small child who was dismayed that something had gone wrong for them. They were really dismayed that something had gone wrong for them. About to torture me and others. And somehow I got the feeling from the voice that I was seen as something incredibly precious, that they wanted to have a good opinion of them. They didn't want me to have a bad opinion of them. They wanted to make me feel terrible. I think they want me to have in the past, clearly, with their insults. It's clear they want to make people have, their victims have a bad opinion of themselves. And yet they have the highest opinion of us. And they want us to have a high opinion of them. I can only describe it as something like it says in the Bible. A sort of, I can only describe it as a reference to grapes. They want the sweetness that's within us, and they want us to allow it to come out. So they need us to reject it ourselves, have a low opinion of ourselves, and be willing to reject ourselves so they can then get it. They're trampling us like grapes to get our sweetness out. And they then use it to pretend to be us. This little thing was doing me evil, and I think they intend to do me evil until all of me is gone. And I'll be in pieces, dispersed throughout whichever of them has taken me in pieces, and being utilized in various ways that they're using to mock up my appearance or nature or the real me. Maybe they want to get into heaven using my appearance. The last thing they want is for any part of me to contain traces of awareness of what's going on. They can't use my full self if part of it is contaminated by awareness of things that would give them away if it were witnessed by another. If they had to stand before God or anything that could read their souls or my soul, and my soul was aware that it was in pieces being utilized by another kind of being. Well, maybe it would be uncomfortable for them, or maybe it would incriminate them. Maybe I could become conscious of myself and recover myself, at least in pieces, and eventually all of me, who knows? Maybe I could harm them, make them harm themselves, cause them to have accidents, make them uncomfortable, disrupt and disturb and distress them. I don't know. But I want to be conscious of these things. I want to try to stop them. It was really dismayed, this creature. All its sympathy was for itself. It seemed very unhappy with what had gone on, very distressed, but not with a shred of guilt, with a very babyish kind of behavior. But no guilt, absolutely merciless, but with such an infantile voice that if you didn't know better, you would wonder if it were somehow innocent or unaware of its acts and the seriousness of them and so forth. But these creatures do know that what they're doing is wrong, because if you do something to them, like throw a chair at them, they don't like it, so they know it's wrong. What they are is hypocrites, total hypocrites. They don't care how they treat other people. They just have no consideration for others. They're non-social, except amongst their own kind. They don't have sympathy for others, other creatures. Maybe this is how they eat or something, I don't know. I suppose it might be how they eat. Anyway, I don't want to be eaten. Trying to describe the voice for you, because gave a lot of information away. He was free of guilt. He didn't feel guilty. He was completely selfish. It sounded like a very young child, except he could speak clearly. This is what these things are like. In this physical world, you wouldn't believe it. You probably won't believe this. I got lost in a black area once, well, an Indian, subcontinental Indian area in London, and the street signs were all in a foreign language, and there were not even any English street signs, and I couldn't find my way. I didn't mean to be there. I think I'd gone for an interview in that area or something, and I ended up lost in the area, and I couldn't find my way out. No one spoke English, so no one could tell me where I was. Just a few people spoke a few words of English around me, but they said they didn't know where the street I was looking for was. And as I passed them, even very small babies began to swear at me and mock me. And the youngest one I passed was about